Battle through the heavens. Chapter 1381, completely different from before. After this cold cry was made, the black fog that spread over the distant sky fluctuated before scattering apart. A blue figure slowly stepped through the air. Within a couple of flashes, the figure appeared 1,000 feet from Xiao Yan. I was wondering who it was. It is actually you, a homeless stray. Unexpectedly, you possess the courage to return to this place. In that case, I will also capture you and bring you back with the rest. The Ninth Tanzuin's eyes looked at Xiao Yan in a chilly manner as he coldly laughed. I'm afraid that you do not possess the qualifications. Xiao Yan smiled. If he had met this Ninth Tanzuin before entering the heavenly tomb, things might have been a little troublesome. However, just Xiao Yan's current strength was no weaker than his. If they were to exchange blows, Xiao Yan was confident he could force the Ninth Tanzuin to remain here forever. Xiao Yan has never feared anyone within the same level. What arrogant words! You really think that you can be haughty with the growth in your strength. Today, I'm afraid that you won't be able to leave this place. The Ninth Tanzuin coldly cried out. However, he did not attack immediately. He was no fool. He could tell that Xiao Yan's strength had improved by leaps and bounds because he had seriously injured Tian with just one strike. Hence, he would naturally be a little careful, given his cautious nature. Qi. The black fog behind the Ninth Tanzuin rippled after his cold voice sounded. 3 figures immediately rushed over and stood beside the Ninth Tanzuin. Their sinister eyes swept over Xiao Yan as they laughed in a strange manner. It is actually this brat. It is rumored that our Hall of Souls has failed many times to capture him. Why don't we act together and capture him? We will be given great credit if we can bring this brat back. Kai Lin and the others on the wall were startled when they saw the sudden appearance of these people. They could sense the frightening auras of these 4 people. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the 3 black-robed old men who had suddenly appeared. These 3 were clearly experts from the Hall of Souls. Their strengths were also around that of an 8-star Dozun. Thus, they were relatively strong. It seemed that these were the 4 8-star Dozun experts mentioned in the information Xiao Yan had obtained. Those from the Hall of Souls always like to do such things. A loud laugh was transmitted from behind Xiao Yan when the 3 black-robed old men appeared. They were the 3 elders who Yao Lao had hired. Due to the frightening lineup that Xiao Yan had brought with him, the Yan Alliance had already stabilized the situation. Those enemy experts who had charged onto the wall had been eliminated. The remaining individuals from the Profound Lion sect had lost a great amount of their vigor from earlier because of the sudden appearance of these dozens of elite Dozuns. They did not dare to randomly charge over at the moment. The 3 elders managed to find the time to come to Xiao Yan's aid after stabilizing the situation. The 3 of them were quite well known in the Central Plains region. Hence, they were not afraid of the Hall of Souls, so their tones were a little rude. 3 elders? It is unexpected that you old farts who refuse to die have also come. Looks like you have really lived too long. Even your brains are diluted. The expression of the Ninth Tanzuin in the sky sank when he saw the 3 elders. He immediately let out a cold laugh. From the looks of it, he had clearly heard of the elders. Other people might be afraid of your Hall of Souls, but we are not. This world is so huge. Do you really think that your Hall of Souls can dominate it? The eldest brother curled his mouth. He did not pay heed to this threat from the Ninth Tanzuin. Junior Pavilion Chief, this noisy old fellow will be left to you. The 3 of us will take care of the 3 others. What do you say? Xiao Yan slightly smiled and immediately nodded upon hearing the words of the eldest Hu brother. The three Hu elders were also 8-star dozuns. It would not be a problem for them to deal with 3 experts of similar strength. Haha, in that case, let's see who will be able to finish off their opponent first. The oldest Hu brother loudly laughed. Dochi surged out of his body in all directions. The second and third Hu brothers followed close behind. After which, they separated and rushed to attack the other 2 black-robed elders. Since all of you wish to deliver yourself to us, we shall accept your offers. Those 3 black-robed elders chuckled in a sinister tone when they saw the 3 old Hu brothers rushing over. Dark fog surged out of their bodies as they moved, transforming into 3 black balls of smoke that heavily collided with the Hu brothers. Immediately, frightening energy fluctuations swiftly expanded. The Ninth Tanzuin frowned when he saw the 6 individuals engage in a fight within an instant. He had not expected Xiao Yan to bring so many experts from the Central Plains. Our mission this time around is to capture all the members of the Xiao clan. Looks like we must first deal with this person today. A glint flashed over the Ninth Tanzuin's eyes before a ferocious glow appeared in them. He clenched his hand without any unnecessary words, and dark chilly air swiftly gathered. It finally turned into a layer of black crystals that covered his right hand. At the same time, his foot stepped through empty air and his body disappeared in a strange manner in front of many gazes. What swift speed! The faces of the Yan Alliance experts on the wall became anxious when they saw the Ninth Tanzuin disappearing in a flash. Such speed is still insufficient. Xiao Yan in the sky merely shook his head. He waved his hand to strike the empty space beside him with lightning-like speed. An illusory figure immediately appeared from the spot where the wind from his palm reached. A dark and chilly palm violently clashed with Xiao Yan's hand. Bang! A wind containing a dark chill mixed with a strong heat before erupting from the point of contact as both palms clashed. Space itself was shaken until it became distorted. 8-star Dozun? The powerful wind erupted and the Ninth Tanzuin's body appeared, but his expression changed because of the hot and cold forces that were erupting around his arm like floodwater. A groan was emitted from his throat as he was forced back over a dozen steps. Shock immediately surged onto his face. After an initial exchange, he had suddenly realized that the current Xiao Yan had reached the 8th star of the Dozun class. The Ninth Tanzuin clearly remembered when he met with Xiao Yan half a year ago. Back then, Xiao Yan had just reached the 5th star. Although he had sensed that Xiao Yan's aura had soared, he had not expected this great increase to reach such a terrifying extent. The experts of the Yan Alliance on the wall erupted into a cheer when they saw Xiao Yan had obtained the upper hand in a head-on clash with the Ninth Tanzuin. A shock that could not be hidden also appeared in their eyes. By being able to force the Ninth Tanzuin, who was an 8-star Dozun, back, the strength of the current Xiao Yan must have reached that of an 8-star Dozun. Ugh, Xiao Yan had only just reached the Do Huang class when he left back then. It has only been a few short years, yet his strength has soared to such an extent. We have no choice but to admire him. Hai Budong and the rest faced each other. He helplessly sighed a moment later. During these years, he had relied on the medicinal pills accumulated by the Yan Alliance to break through to the Dozong class after experiencing much difficulty. Originally, he thought that he was fairly quick, but there was no way for them to even compare with Xiao Yan. It has been over half a year since we last met, yet you have not even improved a little. Xiao Yan shook his head when he saw the Ninth Tanzuin's shock. Xiao Yan's strength had reached the peak of an 8-star dozun. The Ninth Tanzuin was now a little weaker than Xiao Yan. Back then, Xiao Yan had already been able to engage the Ninth Tanzuin in an intense battle with just the strength of a 5-star dozun. Now, this so-called Ninth Tanzuin no longer posed even the slightest threat to him. Brat, it is still too early for you to be pleased. The Ninth Tanzuin's face immediately turned a little green when he heard Xiao Yan's words. A seal was formed by his hand with lightning-like speed as a muffled cry was emitted from his throat. The dark chilly air around them swiftly gathered into many thousand-foot-tall energy palms after this cry sounded. Palm wind whistled and furiously struck at Xiao Yan from all directions. Faced with the Ninth Tanzuin's powerful attack, Xiao Yan stepped through empty space and acted like he was taking a leisurely stroll. Many afterimages appeared, causing the many large energy palms to miss. Some of the large energy palms that could not be dodged were forcefully shattered with a flick of Xiao Yan's wrist. Xiao Yan stepped through empty air in front of the countless number of gazes present. He stepped closer and closer to the Ninth Tanzuin. Regardless of how the red-faced Ninth Tanzuin tried to block Xiao Yan, he was unable to cause Xiao Yan to pause for even a moment. Watching this battle, everyone understood that Xiao Yan's strength had far surpassed the Ninth Tanzuin's strength. Bang! A purple-brown flame rose in Xiao Yan's hand and forcefully shattered an enormous energy palm that was approaching his body before his footsteps finally came to a stop. He lifted his head and looked at the Ninth Tanzuin, whose expression was a little pale. A faint smile appeared. They were both 8-star dozuns, but Xiao Yan's strength had surpassed him by many times. Adding the ancient insect emperor cloth and the dragon phoenix ancient armor, the Ninth Tanzuin's attacks were no longer able to harm him. This battle, which was on a completely different level, did not have any meaning from the beginning. He is not just at the 8th star. He is at the peak of the 8th star. This person is improving at an impossibly rapid pace. I can no longer match him. Regardless of how ugly the Ninth Tanzuin's expression was when he watched Xiao Yan shatter his attacks, he had to admit that his current strength was no match for Xiao Yan. He decisively clenched his teeth and stomped a foot on empty air, causing his body to suddenly withdraw. Since you are already here, why do you need to leave? Xiao Yan grinned after seeing the Ninth Tanzuin flee. Xiao Yan's body slowly disappeared, and he was already behind Ninth Tanzuin when he appeared. His right hand gently slapped the empty air, and a cluster of black light swiftly spread while accompanied by a faint destructive aura. The Ninth Tanzuin's expression suddenly became pale as he sensed the annihilation aura that spread over with lightning-like speed. With Xiao Yan's current strength, unleashing a Tian-class Do skill like the Great Heaven Creation Palm was like the sickle of a death god for the Ninth Tanzuin. The Ninth Tanzuin suddenly lowered his head while his heart was covered with an aura of death. He looked at the ground below and his voice sharply cried out. Chapter 1382, 4th Tianju, Shuihe. Xiao Yan was a little startled when he heard the Ninth Tanzuin's sudden screech. His peripheral vision caught sight of the ground below that been dyed red with fresh blood. From the looks of it, this Hall of Souls did indeed have an even stronger hidden expert who had not attacked. Regardless of whether there is a helper, I will kill this person first. Xiao Yan's eyes flickered. A ferocious glow flashed an instant later as he abruptly pushed his hand forward. The rate at which the dark black light circle spread suddenly soared. The Ninth Tanzuin was terrified when he sensed the frightening energy behind him. Dochi erupted from his body before he swung back, but no matter how he retaliated, the spreading speed of the black light did not slow by even a little. Fourth brother. It was futile regardless how the Ninth Tanzuin struggled. His face also became void of color as a sharp cry once again sounded. Bang! The ground violently trembled after the second scream from the Ninth Tanzuin sounded. It was possible to see the ground swiftly crumble apart. Within the blink of an eye, a deep abyss that was a couple thousand feet long appeared in front of many stunned gazes. Following the appearance of this deep abyss, a nauseating bloody scent surged out in all directions, and some incomparably sharp screeches were vaguely emitted. The appearance of the deep abyss surprised Xiao Yan in the sky. It was unexpected that such a being was hiding under the ground. It seemed that the people from the Hall of Souls had come prepared. Although Xiao Yan was surprised in his heart, his reaction was not slow. He pushed his right hand forward, and a black light circle merged with the Ninth Tanzuin's left arm like lightning. A miserable cry was immediately emitted from the Ninth Tanzuin's mouth after his left arm was dragged into the black light. An unblockable tearing force surged out of the light circle. In an instant, it tore the Ninth Tanzuin's arm until it became blurry. If he had not unleashed all of his dochi to block the tearing force, his arm would have turned into dust at that moment. Even though it didn't instantly disappear, the tearing force still swiftly entered his arm and caused his muscles, blood vessels, and even bones to swiftly explode and deform. Humph. Xiao Yan coldly cried out after having successfully grabbed the Ninth Tanzuin and suddenly clenched his hand. The suction force within the light circle suddenly surged and pulled the rest of the Ninth Tanzuin's body toward it. Crack! The Ninth Tanzuin's heart was at a completely shock after having sensed Xiao Yan's intentions. He clenched his teeth, curled his hand into a blade, and chopped off his own arm. Trying to escape? Xiao Yan was startled when he realized that the Ninth Tanzuin was this ruthless. He immediately laughed in his heart. The black light circle once again sped up and grew a couple more times before once again approaching the Ninth Tanzuin. This caused the Ninth Tanzuin's speed to be severely limited. At this moment, he finally sensed just how frightening this great heaven creation palm was. When Xiao Yan was only a 4-star dozun, the Ninth Tanzuin was able to rely on his strength, which had far surpassed Xiao Yan's, to block the great heaven creation palm. However, their levels were similar now. He no longer possessed any strength to resist it. Swoosh! Some despair surfaced in the Ninth Tanzuin's eyes before a reaction finally occurred in the enormous abyss below. The rushing sound of wind appeared as a 1,000-foot-large bloody glow erupted. It agglomerated into a blood dragon that emitted a roar as it ruthlessly charged toward Xiao Yan with a shocking momentum. Xiao Yan's expression changed as he sensed the ripple that was suddenly transmitted from below, but he did not turn around to receive the attack. Instead, his eyes were dark and cold as they stared at the Ninth Tanzuin's face, which had revealed a joy when this attack appeared. He coldly smiled and pushed his hand forward again, and a black light circle rushed out with lightning-like speed. Finally, it devoured the Ninth Tanzuin's body. Uh. The Ninth Tanzuin's terrified cry was emitted from within the black light after being devoured by it. He did not expect Xiao Yan to completely ignore the powerful blood dragon attack. Bang! The blood dragon that had whistled over ruthlessly collided with Xiao Yan's body the moment the black circular light devoured the Ninth Tanzuin's body. As it ruthlessly collided with Xiao Yan, a rich blood-colored light exploded in the sky. Watching the spreading blood light, which bloomed in the sky like a blood-colored sun, the expressions of Kai Lin's group on the wall changed. They had not expected Xiao Yan to endure this blow. The frightening energy contained within the blood dragon earlier was enough to kill a 6-star Dozun on the spot. The wall had descended into a dead silence. There was still some joy from earlier, but the joy was permeated with shock at this moment. Those from the Hall of Souls always like to hide in the darkness like rats. This silence continued for over a dozen seconds as everyone's hearts sank. At this moment, a faint voice suddenly echoed across the sky. A swoosh sound appeared as almost every pair of eyes gathered in the sky. A skinny figure was stepping through the air as he slowly walked out of the spreading blood light. An earth-shaking cheer abruptly erupted from the fortress when that skinny figure appeared in front of their eyes. Who? Kai Lin and the others sighed in relief when they heard the cheers beside their ears. They had been terrified by the unexpected situation earlier. Huh? A faint exclamation rang out of the deep abyss when Xiao Yan appeared to be unharmed after receiving that attack. A countless number of people heard a splashing sound from the abyss. It appeared as though the blood was flowing within it. The sound of flowing liquid became louder in front of countless pairs of eyes. A moment later, a blood color suddenly surfaced from the deep abyss. It was a vicious scarlet sea. The viscous blood sea continued to rise from the deep abyss. It finally came to a slow halt when it was level with edges of the deep abyss. The blood sea flowed and a completely blood-red figure slowly appeared. The figure lifted both of his scarlet eyes as he looked indifferently at Xiao Yan. A hoarse voice resounded over the sky. You are indeed worthy of being a person that the Hall Chief attaches much importance to. You do possess the ability to be proud. Xiao Yan studied that human figure below. At this moment, this person was wearing a long blood-colored robe. His long hair was scarlet in color, and his red eyes caused one's heart to feel a bloody scent spread over when they looked in one's direction. This sudden blood figure also caused many experts from the Profound Lion sect to be stunned. Even they were unaware that such a mysterious expert was present in their camp. What frightening strength this person has! The hearts of some experts from the Yen Alliance sank upon seeing this blood figure. Although they were unable to sense the blood figure's exact strength, it was obvious that the strength of this person was the strongest within the Profound Lion sect's camp. Shuihi. The 3 Hu elders who were battling those 3 experts from the Hall of Soul had stopped because of this scene. Their eyes gravely observed that blood-colored figure as they stated in a deep voice. Shuihi. Xiao Yan lifted his brow. Junior Pavilion Chief, be careful. This person is an extremely renowned expert within the Central Plains. His blood-transforming grand skill is extremely mysterious. Many top-level experts have died in his hands back then. However, he suddenly vanished, and it seems that he has joined the Hall of Souls. The eldest Hu brother spoke with a grave expression. That was a name from a long time ago. All of you can now address me as 4th Tanzuin or perhaps Shuihi Tanzuin, the human figure. Who was standing in the sea of blood, lifted his head and laughed in a hoarse manner when he heard the eldest Hu brother's words. Fourth Tanzuin, huh? Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes. The Hall of Souls really had many hidden experts. This person should be a peak dozun of the ninth star. He was only one step away from the Banshing class. It was unexpected that the Hall of Souls would dispatch such an expert. If he had not hurried back in time, the Yan Alliance fates would have been worrying. You really act leisurely. However, you are too lazy to even rescue the life of your companion. Xiao Yan faintly laughed. He randomly waved his hand, and a corpse that had been torn until its form was altered flew out. Finally, it landed in front of the fourth Tanzuin. From the looks of it, it was the ninth Tanzuin who had been struck by the great heaven creation palm earlier. However, he had completely lost his life. It is pointless to rescue trash who has failed many times. The fourth Tanzuin glanced at the corpse. He widened his mouth and a blood arrow shot from it. This blood arrow caused the ninth Tanzuin to turn into a pool of blood that exploded. His voice was void of any emotion as he spoke. Emotions are indeed unnecessary to you people from the Hall of Souls. Xiao Yan mockingly lifted his mouth and spoke after witnessing this scene. Haha, emotions should be abandoned. The fourth Tanzuin laughed when he heard Xiao Yan's words. He immediately shook his head and softly sighed. Originally, I did not wish to intervene, but that fellow is too useless and even ended up dying in your hands. Since this is the case, allow the old me to act on his behalf. The old me will bring back all the people with the blood of the Xiao clan. The sea of blood in the deep abyss suddenly shot out and formed many large blood pillars after the fourth Tianzuin's word sounded. The blood fog spread, and a dense bone-chilling aura slowly swept out in all directions from the fourth Tianzuin's body. Battle through the heavens. Chapter 1383, Blood Devouring Skill. A cold and sinister aura swept away from the fourth Tianzuin's body like a storm. The blood of those within his aura boiled at this moment, regardless of whether or not they were from the Yan Alliance or Profound Lion sect. Immediately, one could hear a bang, bang, bang sound as countless numbers of bodies exploded. A pool of bloody pulp dyed the ground until it was incomparably red. This indiscriminate killing by the fourth Tianzuin naturally shocked both parties. Those people close to the abyss hurriedly pulled back. Within a short instant, the entire area had become empty. Bastard, what are you doing? Don't tell me that you have forgotten our agreement. A short distance away, Xiao, who had been seriously injured by a strike from Xiao Yan, had finally caught his breath at this moment. He immediately became furious and cried out loud when he saw the fourth Tianzuin began to kill people from the Profound Lion Sect's army. The fourth Tianzuin floated over the sea of blood. His eyes were indifferent as they glanced at Xiao, who had cried out furiously. He slowly raised his hand and pointed at Xiao from some distance away before abruptly clenching his hand. Bang! Xiao's furious cry suddenly halted when fourth Tianzuin clenched his hand. Xiao's body exploded in an instant, causing blood to shoot out in all directions. The faces of the Profound Lion Sect's experts were greatly shocked when they saw that this person had killed even the chief of the Profound Lion Sect. Although they were extremely furious, none of them dared to let out an angry cry. Even Xiao was unable to block a random palm from the fourth Tianzuin. Even less needed to be said for them, and some of the experts in the Profound Lion Sect's camp had been threatened and lured over to the Hall of Souls. They could not be called loyal to the Profound Lion Sect anymore. Naturally, they would not take the initiative to help them. Pull back the Yan Alliance's front line. This fellow experiences mood swings. In any case, it would be suicidal for an ordinary army to get involved. Kai Lin knit her brows and ordered in a deep voice. Understood. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li by the side nodded when they heard her command. They quickly relayed her orders to swiftly withdraw all soldiers outside of the fortress. Now, we can only hope that Xiao Yan will be able to deal with this person. Otherwise, the mysterious yellow fortress will not avoid a terrible bloodshed. Hai Budong spoke with a grave face. Even Kai Lin could only nod her head when she heard these words. The strength of that so-called Fourth Tanzuin was obviously great. None of the people present could contend with him. Hence, they could only place all their hope on Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan in the sky frowned as he watched the Fourth Tanzuin randomly cause a person's body to self-destruct. An expression of contemplation flashed across his eyes. This person is called Shui Tanzuin. Moreover, he also knows the blood transforming grand skill. He probably can control the blood in a person's body. Xiao Yan had come across experts who could control the blood of another person. However, none of them had been as tough as this Fourth Tanzuin. A 6-star Dozun's body had exploded with a flick of his hand. Although Shirtion's serious injuries factored in, the mysterious technique of the Fourth Tanzuin was the main reason. Splash! The sea of blood suddenly rippled while Xiao Yan was thinking to himself. The Fourth Tanzuin stepped forward and walked through empty air. He took a step at a time and finally stopped a short distance away from Xiao Yan. His blood-colored hair fluttered and a bloody scent quietly spread across the sky. Peak of an 8-star Dozun. This is indeed quite strong. The Fourth Tanzuin studied Xiao Yan. An ugly smile rose onto his face as he lifted his hand and violently clenched it in Xiao Yan's direction. The space in front of the Fourth Tanzuin immediately became distorted after he clenched his hand. A thought passed through Xiao Yan's heart as he observed the Fourth Tanzuin with a frown. A majestic doqi broke from his body. The doqi transformed into a fierce flame that wrapped around him. Doqi will not be able to block my blood transforming grand skill. The Fourth Tanzuin laughed in a hoarse voice when he saw Xiao Yan's doqi. The Fourth Tanzuin's words had just sounded when Xiao Yan sensed the blood within his body began to churn uncontrollably. He could vaguely feel that his blood was about to burst from their vessels. Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly when he sensed the transformation occurring in his body. This fellow's so-called blood-transforming grand skill was indeed unique. However, Xiao Yan was about to suppress the churning blood within his body when his heart suddenly pounded. He quickly noticed a strange strength spreading from his heart. Finally, this strength spread to his blood vessels, and the boiling feeling disappeared almost the moment the strength came into contact with his blood. This is the merged bloodline from the heavenly tomb. This change caused Xiao Yan to feel startled as some surprise flashed across his eyes. It was unexpected that this newly formed bloodline was this powerful. Even the Fourth Tanzuin's blood-transforming grand skill was unable to affect it. Looks like your blood-transforming grand skill is not as strong as you described it. Xiao Yan lifted his head after sensing the blood gradually calming within his body. He smiled at the Fourth Tanzuin while he spoke. What happened? The Fourth Tanzuin was startled when there was no response from Xiao Yan's body. He frowned. This blood-transforming grand skill was a Tian-class Do skill. Even some elite Banshangs would be affected by it, causing them to split their attention to suppress it. Why was it that this skill was completely useless against Xiao Yan? Xiao Yan slightly smiled. Both of his hands quickly formed many mysterious seals. After the formation of these seals, a mysterious clan tattoo slowly appeared on his brows. Xiao Clan's clan tattoo? You have actually activated the Xiao Clan's bloodline. The fourth Tanzuin was startled when he saw the clan tattoo on Xiao Yan's brows. The Xiao Clan's bloodline had already been wasted. Everyone knew that. Why could Xiao Yan summon the clan tattoo? No one could answer the fourth Tanzuin question. Xiao Yan's aura suddenly soared when the clan tattoo appeared. Within a short instant, it was no longer inferior to the fourth Tanzuin's aura. The strengthening effect of the clan tattoo was perfectly displayed at this moment. Who? Xiao Yan comfortably inhaled a mouthful of air as he sensed the surging dou qi from within his body. He immediately lifted his head and smiled at the frowning fourth Tanzuin. His foot stepped forward, and his body vanished the moment his foot landed. Even though the blood-transforming grand skill is useless against you, I am still able to sense the flow of the blood in your body to determine your position. Therefore, your speed is useless against me. The fourth Tanzuin coldly laughed when he saw Xiao Yan vanish. He swiftly took 3 steps back as wave after wave of blood-red dou qi flowed out of his body and gathered into a thick blood cuticle on his palm. He then ruthlessly smashed it toward the empty space to the right. Come out. A stench-filled palm wind arrived and the space immediately became distorted. A figure also appeared. It was Xiao Yan. Although Xiao Yan's position was detected, he did not show any signs of dodging. Instead, he stepped forward and allowed the fourth Tanzuin's attack to land on his chest. At the same time, a hot fist suddenly whizzed out. Its swiftness did not allow time for any reactions. The palm wind ruthlessly struck the fourth Tanzuin's body. This fighting method did not involve any skill. It was a literal exchange of blows. Bang! The fists of the two ruthlessly landed on the other party's body. However, Xiao Yan's shoulders merely shook after receiving a blow from the fourth Tanzuin. His expression was not altered. On the other hand, the fourth Tanzuin was forced a couple of steps back by Xiao Yan's punch. His throat also emitted a moan. Xiao Yan's incomparably hot fist wind was too much for him to endure. It seems that you will not be able to endure if we exchange blows in this manner. Xiao Yan flicked his clothes with a smiling face and softly commented. The fourth Tanzuin's face was gloomy. His eyes stared at the cloth on Xiao Yan's body. After having exchanged blows, he was naturally aware that his attack had mostly been absorbed by that strange cloth earlier. However, he could not understand why the remaining force didn't harm Xiao Yan. The rest of the attack had naturally been absorbed by the Dragon Phoenix ancient armor hidden in Xiao Yan's skin, but such a secret would never be understood by the fourth Tanzuin no matter how he thought about it. Not only were Xiao Yan's clothes strange, but even his skin was extremely mysterious. The fourth Tanzuin stared at Xiao Yan in a dark and solemn manner. Xiao Yan was immune to his attacks, but he wasn't able to ignore the other party's attacks. Such a battle really caused one to feel stifled. However, this fourth Tanzuin was not an ordinary person. He was aware that his attack from earlier did not harm Xiao Yan. The only reason was that its strength was insufficient. Since this strength was lacking, he should use a greater strength to smash Xiao Yan into dregs. Blood transforming grand skill, great devouring blood technique. The fourth Tanzuin's face was ferocious. A sinister cry resounded over the land like thunder. After this cry sounded, the bodies of anyone weaker than an elite dozun within a 10,000-foot radius exploded at this moment. They transformed into blood that continuously poured into the fourth Tianzuin's body. At the same time, the sea of blood in the abyss below began to whistle as it transformed into a monstrous bloody wave that surged into his body. While the fourth Tian Sun was devouring all this blood, his originally still aura started to diverge. After which, it slowly soared. Xiao Yan, do not threaten this venerable self. Today, I will capture all the blood of your Xiao clan along with the bloodline that you have activated. The sky was altered as the sea of blood spread. A sinister voice that was accompanied by a frightening pressure that pervaded the sky. Battle through the heavens. Chapter 1384. 9 Changes to Turn Sheng. A solemn expression flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes as he sensed the fourth Tianzuin's soaring aura. This person possessed some ability to form such a fierce name for himself within the central plains. The fourth Tianzuin's current aura had clearly surpassed that of an ordinary expert at the peak of the Dozun class. Of course, this did not mean that the fourth Tianzuin had already reached the Banxing class, because such a thing was impossible. There might only be a step from the peak of the Dozun class to the Banxing class, but this step was as vast as the sky. The gap between the two was so terrifying that it was difficult to describe. This could be seen from the way Yao Lao's strength had remained at the peak of the Dozun class for many years. It wasn't until he borrowed the strength from his new body to break through. Regardless of how frightening one's talent was, trying to reach the Banxing class was not an easy task. This short step was one that countless of talented individuals hated and failed. They would feel an incomparable regret until the moment they died. The reason that this occurred was because this short one step hid a unique training method. Only those experts who had approached this level would be able to sense this kind of unique training. Some of the top experts in the Central Plains region called this unique training method the 9 Changes to Turn Sheng. The so-called 9 changes could be considered a quantifier to measure the gap between the peak of the Dozun class and the Banxing class. After all, the gap between the two was really too terrifying. One needed to use an even finer ranking system with enormous positions between levels to differentiate the difficulty. The 9 changes were not complicated. Simply put, they were considered 9 compressions and suppressions. The moment the Do Qi within the body of an expert at the peak of the Dozun class showed signs of being full and could no longer be increased was the moment the 9 changes began. One would then need to shrink and suppress the Do Qi within one's body. Only then would the interior of one's body have enough space to accept new Do Qi. One needed to perform this compression once the Do Qi became filled again. This cycle would repeat, and only after 9 suppressions would it reach a complete state. The Do Qi within one's body would experience a change in quality under each compression. Only then would one cross over the unmeasurable sky-like gap and advance to the Sheng class. Due to this, some of the experts who had reached this stage would describe the training hidden at the peak of the Dozun class as 9 changes. One could only become a Sheng after 9 changes. It was easy to talk about these 9 changes, but they would really test one's limits. Just imagine the frightening amount of Do Qi an expert at the peak of the Dozun class could contain. That needed to be filled and filled 9 times. Such a requirement was indeed worthy of the description horrifying. Although the 9th Tanzuin from earlier was also at the peak of the Dozun class, he was a 1-change peak Dozun. He was even a little weaker than Xiao Yan after he had activated the clan tattoo. After having absorbed so much energy from the fresh blood, the 4th Tanzuin had soared to the 3rd change. Of course, the Banxing class was still far enough away that it was difficult to feel. If the 4th Tanzuin reached the Banxing class, Xiao Yan would not have a chance of victory. The fourth Tanzuin's eyes also became scarlet with his soaring aura. Although this blood-transforming great skill was able to absorb the energy from the blood of a person, the sequela was quite serious. Within 1 month of using it, the fourth Tianzuan's body would enter a state where he was close to death. Even someone at the Do Wang class would easily be able to kill him. Therefore, the fourth Tianzuan would usually not dare to use this secret technique unless he had no choice, but for this current situation, he would not only fail his mission if he did not activate it, he would also be defeated by Xiao Yan. This was something that he could not endure. Roar! His scarlet eyes stared at Xiao Yan. A dense smile surfaced on his face as a chilling roar was emitted from his throat. Chi-chi! Waves of frightening blood-colored fog surged from the fourth Tianzuan's body in all directions after he roared. It gathered into a thick blood cloud as a stench spread from it. Xiao Yan frowned as he stared at the bloody cloud in the sky. He could sense the frightening energy that had gathered within the bloody cloud, and he did not dare to slight it. His hand rubbed in front of him, and 4 clusters of heavenly flames appeared. A high temperature quickly spread when these heavenly flames appeared. They incinerated the surrounding stench. Xiao Yan inhaled another breath of air after summoning the 4 clusters of heavenly flames. His hand seal changed and a cluster of gray flames was spat out of his mouth. This flame might not be as strong as those 4 heavenly flames, but it emitted an extremely powerful aura. This was the fake heavenly flame that Xiao Yan had refined, life-transforming flame. 5-ring flame expelling technique. A low and deep cry was emitted from Xiao Yan's mouth as the 5 clusters of flames in front of him suddenly soared. They turned into 5,000 feet large fire spirits and gave off many loud beast roars above Xiao Yan's head. Gather! The fire spirits quickly took shape. Xiao Yan once again coldly cried out. 5 enormous fire spirits formed a mysterious formation and began to rapidly rotate. Finally, it turned into a couple hundred feet across 5-colored fire coil with a buzzing wind. It rotated wildly above his head as a hot wind spread. The bloody cloud in the distance began to fluctuate. Humph! Bloody evil sky demon palm. The fourth Tianzuin let out a cold snort when he saw this from afar. He widened his mouth and a blood pillar shot out. It shot into the bloody cloud in the sky, and the cloud's color immediately dimmed. The blood cloud churned and suddenly burst apart. A 10,000-foot large blood palm shot from the blood cloud in front of a countless number of shocked eyes. It ruthlessly slammed toward Xiao Yan. The might of the blood palm was extremely frightening, and an enormous palm outline appeared on the distant ground when it was still 10,000 feet in the air. Xiao Yan, watch how this venerable self shall slam you into dust. What arrogant words! Xiao Yan's eyes turned cold when he heard the explosive cry that was suddenly emitted from the fourth Tanzuin. His hand seal immediately changed, and a low cry was emitted from his mouth, 5-ring flame expelling coil. Buzz buzz. The enormous 5-colored fire coil in the sky suddenly shot forth after Xiao Yan's cry sounded. Within a couple of flashes, it tore through empty space and ruthlessly collided with the huge blood palm. Bang! The two collided in a frightening manner, and a cold blood and hot flame exploded in the sky. Terrifying energy swept apart in front of many shocked eyes. At this moment, even the clouds had been forcefully shattered into dust. The fourth Tanzuin narrowed his eyes as he watched a frightening energy hurricane form in the sky. He had just pulled back by some distance when a chill was transmitted from behind him. He suddenly turned his head, and a face that contained an icy smile appeared within his eyes. Xiao Yan. Seeing Xiao Yan suddenly appear behind him, the fourth Tanzuin abruptly shrank despite his attitude. He had failed to sense just when Xiao Yan had moved. Great heaven creation palm. A strange smile surfaced on Xiao Yan's face when he noticed the fourth Tanzuin's shock. His right hand violently slammed forward without any hesitation, and a dark black light circle was formed with lightning-like speed. Blood Demon Robe. Shock surfaced in fourth Tianzuan's heart while he faced Xiao Yan's ferocious attack. Fortunately, he was not an ordinary person. Blood immediately flowed through his pores and quickly formed a thick cuticle layer on his body. Bang! Xiao Yan's palm wind was just like lightning as it ruthlessly smashed into the fourth Tianzuan's body. An incomparable wind caused the blood cuticle on the fourth Tianzuan's body to crack an inch at a time. Grug. Although there was the blood demon cuticle blocking the attack, the remnant wind still forced the fourth Tianzuan to spit out a mouthful of blood. His body borrowed this push to quickly fly backwards. Trying to leave? The fourth Tianzuan's body had just flown back when a cold smile slid across Xiao Yan's face. Xiao Yan had finally managed to launch a sneak attack by using the opportunity created by the Douqi void within the fourth Tianzuan's body after he had used the bloody evil sky demon palm earlier. How could Xiao Yan allow him to leave unharmed? The green-red ancient wings on Xiao Yan's back flapped. His body appeared to have teleported as it appeared in front of fourth Tianzuan, who was flying backwards. Xiao Yan reached out with his hand and 4 clusters of flames appeared. Soon after, an extremely beautiful fire lotus was formed in his palm. It's over. A ferociousness appeared on the corner of Xiao Yan's mouth as he observed the shock that had surged onto the fourth Tianzuan's face. The fourth Tianzuan's heart became icy cold when he saw the ferociousness on Xiao Yan's face. Each of those 3 Do skills that Xiao Yan had unleashed possessed a strength that was at the Tian class Do skill level. The perfect combination of those 3 Do skills caused even him to be unable to retaliate. No wonder so many experts from the Hall of Souls have fallen to this brat's hands. While the fourth Tanzuin was feeling extremely regretful of accepting this easy but extremely dangerous task, the fire lotus in Xiao Yan's hand had been propelled forward without any hesitation. It ruthlessly struck onto the fourth Tianzuan's body. Bang! The moment it struck the fourth Tianzuan, a terrifying firestorm swept over the sky like a celebratory firework in front of a countless number of eyes the moment it struck fourth Tianzuan.